Protesters topple a statue of Christopher Columbus and
hundreds of statues have been vandalized.
You see people trying to rewrite history.
The American people know these names have to go.
Why is that?
There's a movie documentary out called Uncle Tom 2. And the reason for this documentary is because a group of people got together and they did a deep dive into this country's history, mainly Black history, and they found some things that may surprise you.
When you look at these pictures, you get a sense of what Black life was like.
Some of them look pretty prosperous.
Divine providence was clearly operating in the lives of Black Americans.
Throughout history, Black folks were honorable. They had integrity. That's what Black people were.
We were never taught that America was bad and that we were not Americans. We were raised to love America.
Whenever you have something to be proud of, people have less of a chance of controlling you.
This country is racist from top to bottom, from right to left. And for Black people to become a part of that is for them to become, in fact, anti-Black and to hate themselves.
There is no country in this world that a Black person would rather be. Unless, of course, they grow up in this country.
Martin Luther King Jr. all of a sudden became like a top subject for them. That's really was surprising because they wasn't looking for that. But his name kept coming up. So because of that, they decided to do a project called the MLK Project as well. So this information may really shock you. Check this out.
Much of the so-called racism was either the result of friction and agitation instigated by the communists or rare events exploited and or exaggerated by activists and communist sympathizers. Imagine also my surprise to learn as we demonstrate in this episode that King was actually not the idea man that the history books tells he was, that the bus boycott, the nonviolent demonstrations, and all the other defining moments for which he is credited merely had his willing face on them, not for the purpose of ushering in genuine race equality, but to usher in something far more nefarious. As this episode unfolds, you might be tempted to give these guys the benefit of the doubt and say to yourself that these are situations where the ends actually justified the means. But I want you to ask yourself, if their goals were so noble, then why did they have to be so deceptive in pursuing them?
Justin Malone, who is a Dallas-based filmmaker, set out to make his film Uncle Tom. And he reached out to me because he heard about me through the Dallas County Republican Party.
Okay.
And at the time I wasn't really active. And so I reluctantly agreed to sit down with him and be interviewed. And I say reluctantly because I really wasn't sure what they were trying to do, whether they were trying to like do a kind of gotcha film about Black conservatives or whatever the case may be. But we sat down, he interviewed me. The interview went really well. He was asking a lot of good questions. We had a really good conversation. And so he took that footage from that interview, flew to LA and met with Larry Elder. And Larry loved the interview. He wanted to become an executive producer for what would become Uncle Tom. And so after the success of that film, they asked me to come back because I'm an independent researcher as well and do the research and the producing for what would ultimately become Uncle Tom Part 2, which was released in 2022. So that, I think, is how I kind of got the platform that I have.
Okay.
And so with that, I was able to take a lot of the research that I'm doing and go out on my own and do my own independent thing as far as making docuseries and videos and things of that nature. So.
And you started looking into MLK and the civil rights era when?
So I started looking into that in around 2019.
Okay.
2019.
And why?
Well, I think for me, it was kind of a course correction, quite frankly. Having gone to public school, learning about Dr. King every January and every Black History Month, learning that he was this great hero, learning that the civil rights movement was a high point for America. I really believe that. I believe that King was the kind of he was the quintessential race unifier, if you will. And as I grew up and began to do my own research, because let me rewind just quite a bit. So whenever we were doing the research for Uncle Tom Part 2, we were looking into cultural Marxism, ideological subversion, and Marxist infiltration into the church. We were looking into these things because we knew that there was something there. These are things that I've been researching since high school, but I always separated King from being
Marxism
a part of that.
And all of that.
I mean, I knew about the Frankfurt School. I knew about Antonio Gramsci. I knew about cultural Marxism. I knew about people like Angela Davis, who was mentored by Herbert Marcuse, who was of the Frankfurt School. But even though King had proximity to all these people, I always felt the need to separate him from those things because it's a no-brainer. King is a hero. We all believe he's a hero, regardless of if you're on the left or the right of the political spectrum. But the more that we were challenging ourselves in Uncle Tom Part 2 to really kind of get underneath the layers and see what was going on, it just kept coming back. King, King, King. And we had to follow the thread in a truthful way, because it wasn't about being a commercial success. It was more about getting to the bottom of things, really.
Yeah.
And really what we wanted to do with Uncle Tom Part 2, which was different than Part 1, is where Part 1 was more focused on Black conservatism 101. Part 2 wanted to take the audience deeper, wanted to basically say, come along with us as we reveal real American history as it pertains to Black Americans. And so with King, it was just a big disappointment to find out the things that we ended up finding out about him in terms of the fact that he wasn't a real Christian.
If what you saw and heard here today triggers questions in your mind for us to talk about and do a deep dive into to find answers, then please leave your comments down below. Have a blessed and wonderful day.